and gentlemen, welcome to Anime Watch Club, a bi-weekly group discussion and review where the hosts of the What Do You Say Anime podcast nominate and vote on shows either we haven't seen or shows that hopefully lead to a great discussion. On today's episode, the mostly Miyazaki versions of the What Do You Say Anime podcast, we'll be reviewing the 2004 animated film, Howl's Moving Castle. Let's meet today's witches and wizards. First up, he accidentally pirated the wrong version and caught a glimpse of Bowl's Moving Castle. We have Kat. Kat, how's it going?
I'm doing great. Uh, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Kat. Next up, a man's closet and hairstyle are inspired by Howl. We got JJ. How's it going?
Oh, it's going great. I really enjoyed this movie. Yeah, I have plenty of positive things to say about it. So.
Awesome. Can't wait to hear about him. Next up, I got nothing funny for him. We got Johnny. Johnny, how's it going?
That's okay. There's nothing funny about me either.
That's true. I just don't want to make the joke. Making his return to the podcast. Watch this movie, just a nominated show for Pat's Week. We got Rifle. Rifle, how's it going?
I'm doing great. I'm glad to be back and nominating a show for Pat.
Yeah. Next up, our first moderator of the night. He's actually pro-war and hates this film. We have Miles. Miles, how's it going?
One of those two things, and not even like half of those two things. I think war's okay.
Oh, damn.
Whoa,
Okay.
whoa, okay.
God damn. Okay. And Pat.
Yeah, the ends justify the means, right, Miles?
You know me.
When's your kit contract?
Oh, fuck.
Yikes.
Hey, listen, us Northeasters, we gotta support Raytheon, right? Some way, one way or another.
I full send thought you were gonna say racism.
Me too. I was like,
so-
wait a second.
Yo,
You got to.
I guess so, yeah. Yeah, so
Kayla's hometown's like parade is always sponsored by Raytheon, and I'm like, what are y'all doing? Like, what?
well, it's like Pratt and Whitney, or or Sikorsky, or literally any other of the military companies that are part of the Northeast. But hey, what it is. Anyways, yeah, let's actually talk about the movie now. Howl's Moving Castle, which obviously was according to what people said after, it was about the the American War in Iraq, I believe. Or
I don't think
was
it's
it more
just
specifically
that.
about. It's not.
Yeah,
I
it's not
didn't see
just
that
about
either.
that.
Maybe
Like
I shouldn't have been.
5%.
Maybe I shouldn't have read that beforehand because I was watching the movie under that lens, and I also didn't enjoy it as much. But either way, that's not what we're talking about yet. It aired in 2004. Was done by the very, very famous director Hayao Miyazaki, who's known for tons of other Ghibli films. And yeah, I guess let's get right into it with our initial thoughts. Movie about 2 hours long as well. For Howl's Moving Castle. Miles, what are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, so I like this movie. It's pretty. I thought Sophie was a very interesting character. She sort of rolls with the punches like really well, and that caught me pretty well, like pretty off. This is my second Ghibli film, but I guess my first more traditionally animated one. And so the scenery and everything caught my attention. I watched the dub. The voice acting was great. Overall, I would recommend this movie. I think like during the course of this conversation, I might end up being like a hater, but just like as you're listening to me be a hater, understand the context that I enjoyed this movie quite a bit, and that I'm going to be a little critical of it. One, because I think it's fun to be a hater, and two, because it's held in such high esteem, and that always makes me rise to the occasion. But I would recommend it. I think it's a great watch. So those are my thoughts.
Fair enough. All right, Kat, what about you?
when I first started watching the show, I could definitely see the influence that this had over other works like Made in Abyss with the beautiful scenery and things like that. It was very beautiful. It also made me understand the reason why Ghibli films are held in such high esteem. Because like watching it made it feel almost like a dream kind of. I think it kind of helped that I was watching it at like 1 a.m. But semantics. But I would definitely recommend this. I would definitely recommend this film, regardless of like what the actual meaning of it is. It is just at its core, it's a very nice love story between a man who's magic and an old woman, and I really enjoyed that.
Fair enough. All right. What about you, Johnny?
Yeah, so for me, this is my not my first Ghibli movie, but my first one directed by Miyazaki, and I can say for a movie that's almost as old as me, movie is actually like 4 years older. Not 4 years, 4 months older than me, which is kind of crazy to think about, which makes me feel old more than anything. But yeah, I feel like there's a reason why Ghibli movies are held in such high standards. It's because the animation of a movie from 19 years ago, like if you look at any other anime from back at this time, it's gonna look like complete trash compared to this. So like this movie, like, and this is the kind of art style that I feel is gonna stand the test of time. Like this is something that's still gonna look good like 20 to 30 years in the future. So I think that's definitely something that's like one of the big selling points for Ghibli, in my opinion, from like what I've seen people talk about, is that the art style is something that's very unique, and I can definitely see that through here. So that's definitely a plus. And for the story, I mean, I'll be honest, the story is not that deep in my opinion. It's like there's a lot of like you could say a lot of things like like we just talked about before, how like it was kind of like Miyazaki's stance on like anti-war. So I was like, yeah, maybe you can stretch it to say that, but I think it's more of like he just wanted to say that. But yeah, but so yeah, I think that the story in this kind of movie, it's kind of like how I think of like Madoka Shinkai films, where it's like I feel like the story's secondary to the visuals almost in this kind of film, where it's like you're there, it's more of a viewing experience than like a story experience. So I think for that, I definitely recommend this. But if you're going for something with like a very deep and like interesting story, I don't think that's exactly what this film is gonna offer you.
Fair enough. All right. Jay, what about you?
Yeah, I this is definitely a movie that I think I could easily recommend to literally anybody. Like you can watch this with your family, you can watch this with kids, you can one of the first places I watched this was in like middle school or high school or something like that, towards like the end of the year in a classroom. Like it's one of those things where, like Johnny said, people aim for realistic looking things all the time nowadays, but something that's beautifully stylized like this and done well, it truly is like timeless animation that will age very gracefully going into the future, and has aged in the like near 20 years that it's been out. Like it still looks just as good as it did before, even on like, with some of it being like crunched into like streaming or whatever, some of the quality being smushed. The characters are all like pretty solid in my opinion, flawed in some ways that people might not like, but I enjoyed them well enough just because like knowing that it's based on more or less a children's novel kind of helps with that sort of like emotional not labor, the word, but baggage. Like it helps you kind of pick that up and realize, oh, like it's meant for children to be able to relate to these characters, so that's why they kind of act childish sometimes, which isn't necessarily an excuse, but just explains it. So yeah, overall, I think that this is a movie you can easily watch with just about anybody. Like even people who don't like anime. Like if you watch the dub of this and you don't tell somebody it's anime, they probably won't know. So
Yeah, they might think it's like a cartoon or whatever, right?
yeah, exactly.
I could see that. That's a good way to put it, I think. But yeah, Pete, what about you?
Yeah, this is my second time watching it. First time watching it dubbed. My first impressions is I wish Christian Bale did more voice acting. I really enjoyed his
Yes.
performance. I'm really glad Billy Crystal does not. He is the exact opposite of the Japanese version for Calcifer, which was wild just to hear kind of like his performance. While I love Billy Crystal as like an actor, I really did not like his performance as Calcifer.
Oh god, I thought it was so good.
I thought it was so good too.
I liked
That's
it a
my
lot,
I think it's
actually.
because I watched the sub first, because Calcifer is so much different in sub, like night and day difference. That I like the Japanese version of Calcifer a little bit more. Kind of like what reiterating everybody else said. I thought the visuals were stunning, especially like the first scene when Sophie gets to the mountain and we see the castle for the first time. It's coming over the hill. I was like, holy shit, that's so beautiful. But I think Jay nailed it on the head. This is a kids movie. What they did with this as a G-rated film, I think is fantastic. I would recommend this to like everybody. Kids like, I don't know, 7 and older could probably get something out of this. But yeah, I'd recommend it to a lot of people, and it's my second favorite Ghibli film for a reason.
There you go. All right, and Rifle, what about you?
This is my first time actually watching the movie through. Like Jay said, I remember watching bits and pieces as a child on Cartoon Network. And looking back at it now, I can admire all the animation that was put into it. It was very stunning, and I just love the world building it contained. Talking about all the wizards, the magic, this moving castle that can teleport you to different places. So overall, I would recommend this to everyone of all ages.
Fair enough. All right, sweet. And yeah, I would also recommend this to anybody. I think that especially because it is a movie. It's 2 hours, pretty easy to watch. I love the art style as well. Uh, I don't know. It definitely felt like my first true like Miyazaki or Ghibli experience, mainly because it was. And I guess the caveat that it's a kids movie makes it a little less. I don't know if disappointing is the wrong word, but maybe I just went in expecting to be completely blown away. I mean, it was an 8.6 something on 8.66 on Mal, and it's considered one of the best Ghibli films, right? So I guess I expected more out of it by the end. I expected it to make me feel differently by the end of it. So I don't know. I guess we'll go get into a discussion about it. But at the end of the day, I did still enjoy it a lot as well. So maybe Miles and I are drinking the haterade. I don't know. We just it's the Raytheon connection, man. We just love it too much, right? But yeah, all right. Let's get into spoilers. So which I guess matter a little bit in this movie. I don't know, just the usual discussion. So keep that in mind. Maybe go watch it before listening to us talk about it. But yeah, I believe Pete had the first talking point tonight, right?
Yeah, I guess I wanted to get some people, this is their first Ghibli film. Some people, this is their first Miyazaki film. So, Pat, you mentioned it earlier. I think you were a little let down by what you were expecting. So, for the people it is their first time experiencing like a Ghibli film, what were your thoughts on, like the food that's always mentioned in Ghibli films? There's a lot of themes that Ghibli films and Miyazaki films have. So, your thoughts on like what you've seen on like Twitter and Reddit and stuff like that, and then actually seeing it in person.
As my first Ghibli film, because it's not just my first Miyazaki, it's my first Ghibli in general. I It felt really different than a lot of anime that I've said. Like I said in my introduction, it was, well, the first impressions. It feels like a dream. It doesn't feel like a it doesn't feel like an anime that has a lot of substance. It did have a lot of substance, don't get me wrong, but it didn't feel like a lot of the other anime that we watch, where it's like there's a full running plot, and it kind of hammers that down, where it's very character based. It feels like it's kind of blending those two in a way that's almost I guess the best way to put it is trippy, honestly. Like it feels like you're on a ride and you don't want to get off, but while you're there, it's just kind of like riding a Cadillac, I guess is the best way to put it. I was kind of feeling a little let down closer to the end, where I was hoping there'd be a little bit more like suspense and a little bit more of a climax. It felt like it was just kind of coasting a little bit. Like, yes, it was very climactic at the end, where things started falling apart, but like it felt like everything just kind of went, hey, everything's resolved. Everything's good. And I get it that it's for kids, but it's just a little uh, it's just a little that doesn't completely satiate my criticism of it. You know what I mean?
I
To speak
I
to
agree
that,
with that. Yeah, you too. Go ahead, Miles. But I was gonna say I agree
yeah,
completely with that sentiment, Cat. I felt the same way.
the entire war conflict is added from the source material. Like that's all anime original because this is based off of a fantasy book that was written in England from like the 1980s or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and so I wonder if that's like part of it because there wasn't just like a I don't know a way to conclude that also fit with everything else that was happening. There was already a lot of stuff happening and everything, and so with the interpersonal relationships between people that and I guess I'm assuming that you thought that was the thing that had an ending that was like a little and now it's done because to me like that's where I thought the ending was like that where they were just sort of like and now the war is over.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because like um it just felt like nobody wanted to be in the war except for the people that were like it didn't feel like there was anything Like when the prince came out, of the Scarecrow, it was just kind of like, oh, there's your answer. Hey, like,
Oh yeah, let's end the war now. Yeah, I
yeah,
agree to end the war. That felt very funny to me. I don't know. It
like
was. Yeah.
I'm all for ending wars and all that. But like this just felt very quick and very convenient. And I guess like that's kind of one of the things that I feel kind of can be a little excused for the what's it called? Uh for it being a kids show, but it's not completely excused. Like it sure, like it might change my score like by 1, but it's not going to make it completely like a 10. You know what I mean?
All right, Johnny, you had an answer to Pete's question too.
Yeah, so this is my second Ghibli film, as I said before. And for me, see, I feel like the reason, and this is kind of also to like Pat and Miles' point, where it's like they had like everyone has obviously such high expectations going into this, because it's like when you first start getting into anime, like one of the first things that shows up besides like the regular stuff, like Attack on Titan stuff, is like, oh, Ghibli, it's like. But it's kind of treated as its own category now. But when I was starting to get into anime, it was kind of like a really big thing. It's like, oh, you need to watch these Ghibli films. You have to. But for me, I feel like, and this might just be my personal experience, I feel like seeing Ghibli movies for the first time has kind of been ruined by the fact that I've seen Matoka Shinkai movies before, and I feel like there's a very similar vibe I get from these movies. In the sense that, like, both of them are like kind of known for like their outstanding visuals and music in these movies, and it's also just like it's a kind of sightseeing anime where you kind of just sit back and just watch the scenery. And I feel like I don't know if it's true or not, but I feel like Matoka Shinkai took some inspiration from Ghibli as well, from like some of the scenes that I've seen. So I guess maybe because we didn't watch this, like I feel like a lot of people who watched this when they were kids, and then like now they're going back, revisiting it, seeing that like that nostalgia kind of like affects how they think of the show. So I feel like maybe that's why for us, we're all adults now, unfortunately, including myself.
Hey,
Shocking,
I'm
but
happy
it
I'm an
is.
adult.
Yeah, but it's like, maybe like if I feel like if I watched this when I was like still 10 years old, I would have liked it a lot more. But like now watching it back after seeing what we have now, like does it still hold like the test of time? Absolutely. I still think this is worth watching. But I think that because of what we have now, it's not as like it doesn't have the same impact that it does for people who watched it when it came out, I feel.
Yeah, I think what you're saying makes sense. I don't know. I've been uh I kind of I can see both sides for sure because the nostalgia effect is so real with so many shows, right? And so many different like IPs and things that you enjoy, right? And like I think the art in this, just from seeing gifs of Ghibli shit all over Twitter and all over Discord for years now, I feel like I've seen a ton from this specific movie compared to like some of the others. Like what's her name? Sophie, I believe her name was, right?
The main
Sophie's
character.
face. Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
The well, I mean the
Well, I was
old
just making sure that's who he was
yeah,
talking
yeah.
about.
Yeah, the old woman's face, like I've seen that a million times. Calcifer is his name. Yeah, the speaking flame and stuff like that. I feel like I've seen that plenty of times. Where more so than like any other Ghibli film. So I'm sure people, I guess, latched onto it for that reason. I don't know. Like
I'm sure it was way more impressive back then. Like this is 2004. Like what other anime in 2004? Like what other like movies at the time were that good looking? I mean, like
Well,
think
let me
back to
tell
like
you, Johnny, because it lost the Academy Award to Wallace and Gromit: The Curse of the Were Rabbit.
okay okay.
That
That
sounds
is like
awesome, to be
a
It's a
honest.
really good movie.
between
It's a
yeah.
really good movie.
to
I've
be
seen it.
to be fair, that is like it's animation, but there's also like real. I guess Ghibli also does that. So like, yeah, fair enough.
And
But like,
Disney existed in 2004.
I will
yeah, but
also
it's like you got Disney, you had Pixar, you had Miyazaki, and then you had what else?
It
Like
looks really
there's
good for 2004. I don't. Yeah, I think you're right,
yeah,
Johnny.
like there was really like not that much at the time in terms of animation.
Especially for like anime, right? Like, I mean, I don't know what this thing's budget was, but like, sure, it might not, like Disney movies in the 90s might have as good animation, but I bet they're also working with, like this thing's budget was 24 million US dollars, right?
The
Or,
Incredibles came out in 2004.
Okay.
That was a
That
banger.
didn't
How much money did they have?
92
Incredibles-
million. It made
Okay, so-
There you go.
633.
Yeah, 92 to 145. So it's dealing with somewhere between like 4 and 7 times the budget. So
Also, in my humble opinion, I feel like Miyazaki films age better than The Incredibles.
Ooh, The Incredibles.
Or
is
this-
a-
or this film.
That's a
This- I
that's
feel
a
like
top
this
5
film.
Pixar movie, my man.
Yeah, it's a tough take
But-
there.
I mean,
To
in terms of
answer your
visuals,
question-
that's me. Not like story or anything, but just in terms of visuals.
To
Oh,
answer
yeah.
your question, like Akira, for example, like that literally changed the way the animation was made.
It changed the way budgets were allocated to animated movies.
But there were also a couple scenes from Akira that were like a little bit.
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah,
we
I mean,
talked
Like
about
they
it.
had the money shots, like they had
Again-
like the, but like.
Akira had double the budget of Howl's Moving Castle like 2 decades before it came out, so not even accounting for inflation. So Howl's Moving Castle, I think, Johnny, your point stand, looks very good for its time and its budget and all of that. Like, it is definitely a standout in that
Mhm.
that category.
That's fair.
And I feel like that is, in my opinion, the strongest point about these movies and why people still remember them so fondly. Because I feel like that is the most memorable thing about these films. In my humble opinion, I feel like I'm maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like these movies, the story is not the most, like the best part about these movies, I feel. Maybe not. I mean, maybe I'll have to watch Spirited Away, which apparently is the best Ghibli
Oh, it's so
film.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, so like maybe I don't know. I feel like I guess I'll ask you since you watched it. Like, do you think that like that story, like the story in Spirited Away, was better than the visuals?
I just like how unique Spirited Away is. That's why it's my favorite. But I think like I think the thing is we're thinking Howl's Moving Castle is supposed to be like this PG-13 go to a movie, have this huge theme like something like Suzume or Your Name or Weathering with You and stuff like that, where this movie is a G-rated film. Like I feel like that's what we should be like how is this compared to like Toy Story? How is this compared to like Iron Giant? Like I feel like that's what we should be like comparing this movie to when we say something
Well-
like if we're comparing it to like The Tale of Princess Kaguya, which has like completely like different themes than a Ghibli film. I feel like it like shifts away like what the movie is trying to present to its audience. Like I feel like it's like a very easy film to relate to. The characters are very likable, and like that's what resonates with me with these Ghibli films. It's very easy to consume.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I don't think, though, I mean, to sort of throw literally what you said back at you, like, I don't think just because it's a G-rated film necessarily means that you have to sacrifice anything. Like, you can still have, like, really good, like, themes and
I
everything
think you
with, like,
do.
Yeah, I agree.
are you serious?
Yeah, I
Like,
think you have to change like dialogue and stuff. Absolutely. To
you can
I think
tell
you
us.
I think it's easier to have like a better dialogue when it's free range. When you're limited to like a G-rated film, I think you're limited on what you can present.
Sure. Do you think it's impossible to write a story that's as good as, like, there are stories, in my opinion, that if you make the story exactly how you want to, will be rated G.
I think if you look at like the top, let's just take films for example, top rated films of all time. How many of them are rated like G to PG? Like I bet it's like a very
Story?
small amount. Like
Yeah, Toy Story, the one that you mentioned,
yeah,
is like an
it's
example.
it's not zero, but it's very small. Like the best films of all time, I feel like have free range to, present themselves with what they're trying to do. With
Right.
something like Howl's Moving Castle, I think it's presented for kids in a way for everyone to consume.
But the I don't know. I feel like there are a lot of movies, even especially recently, that have come out that kind of refute your point. Like, I believe was it Encanto that people absolutely adored.
Sure,
And then
I'm not
what's-
saying
what's-
it's
what's
zero.
the-
I'm not saying it's zero. I'm saying it's a small amount. I'm not saying like a G-rated film can't be like critically acclaimed. I'm just saying, more often than not, it's not going to be.
I guess that's the skill of the writer, though, in my opinion, more so than it is like the challenge of the thing that's going on.
Sure.
To me, because you can have these really deep themes and these sort of
Well, I mean, the show has themes
Yeah,
that
yeah.
are good and everything. Like, it's not shallow.
Yeah, no, and I guess the reason why I love Howl's Moving Castle is that it presents themes in a way that everybody can consume in a very like easy manner. And I think that is a testament to good writing, to like good messaging, and that's why I hold this in such a regard. But because it is rated G, say if this movie was PG-13, I think you could have done war like a lot better. I think something along like those lines.
We're gonna hop to Jay in a second here, but really quick, Pete, do you think this or Iron Giant does War is Bad better?
Ooh. I think they're comparable. They're both
Okay.
very good.
I guess in my mind, I think Iron Giant does it better.
Yeah.
Um,
I also
Jay.
yeah.
Okay. Jay, you have a talking point?
Well, no, I'm just going in on this as well.
Mm.
I think
Of course.
I disagree with both of you. I
Neat.
think that this movie is good, and it also doesn't really give up a lot of complexity despite being rated G. Like, Miyazaki is an incredibly gifted screenwriter, and basically he uses every part of the buffalo proverbially when making a movie. Not a frame in this movie is wasted. When Hal meets Sophie for the first time, we have the obvious line of him saying, like, I've been looking everywhere for you, which is the ambiguity of it is meant for you to think that he's just getting her away from these fucking douchebag soldiers. But in reality, if you look, you can also notice his ring shine, which leads to Calcifer, who is his heart, which shows that the past thing has already happened and that Sophie is already in his heart. Also, they mentioned that Calcifer isn't supposed to let any strangers into the castle. Sophie is able to get into the castle easily at the start because Calcifer already knows her from the past. Like, this movie was planned and screenwritten very well. I think that it's just not necessarily like thrown in your face like a lot of movies try to be like a lot of movies are now whenever the writers feel kind of clever for referencing something that happens later on. Like, they make it too obvious. It's very subtle, in my opinion, for this movie.
I want to clarify that I don't think this movie is poorly written. I think this movie is well written. I think that
I wasn't trying to say you were saying that.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I think that it's easy to misconstrue what I was saying. I think that some it's weird because like when I watched this movie, I was like, this is great, and then I was like, let me read about what the creator of this movie said this movie was about, and I was like, nah, get off, dude. Like that's wrong. Like you don't understand your own movie. So I think the movie is well written. I think that like the plot is a little ephemeral and sort of wiggly, but I don't think that's bad. Like I like a lot of stuff like that. I think that some things just happen occasionally, but that's not bad. Again,
would it make you feel better to know in the books that Hal is a Welsh rugby lad who drinks too much
and a womanizer?
Yeah,
I mean that part is in the movie.
He harasses her constantly in the movie until she says no and he gives up.
She's also pretty miserable apparently in the books as well, where she's like a pretty like I really liked her character in this, where she's very steadfast and able to deal. Like she starts a bit down where she's just like, I'm ugly, and it's just like, yo, just like change your hairstyle a bit, girl. But like
I think to like wrap around the point that I was more or less thinking about, like there's a lot of people want things to be explained, and I understand that. But like Miyazaki's whole thing, if you watch more of his films, is that he loves to include like a sense of mystery and wonder to his stuff. And like I feel like explaining how the magic works or the time travel or whatever would both bog down the movie and just like it's just not necessary. Like not everything has to have like a hard magic system.
Yeah, hard magic. Yeah, people think hard magic systems.
It.
Yeah, they think they're strictly better, and like that is fucking wrong. Can you just imagine Gandalf being like, "Oh, here's how my staff works and how I repelled the Balrog," as opposed to it just being fucking really cool. Like,
exactly.
Does anyone else have a talking point or want to chime in on this before we move on?
I think
Yeah.
Johnny had something to mention. I do have a talking point as well after this.
Yeah, I don't know, it's been a while, but I guess it's like back to like, do you think that like the G rating like holds the story back? It's like I don't think that like that justifies like bad story writing. I don't think this has bad story writing, but like it's like the way that you rate it, it's like it's saying like the rating of the show prevents it from doing things that it wants, which I guess makes sense, but then you could also just write a story that's not G rated. I mean, I think there's a few Ghibli movies that aren't rated G, right?
Almost
Yeah, no,
certainly.
for sure.
Mononoke.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's like
Grave of the
you can-
I was
Fireflies.
about to say
Yeah.
Grave of the
if
Fireflies
you
is a G.
want, if
You
you
sure that's
want
not
to
G-rated?
write, like if you want to write a story that's like more mature, you can just make it PG-13 and not G. So I don't think that's a defense for it, but at the same time, it's like I feel like you can write a great story that's G-rated, and I feel like this. I mean, the story here is still good. It's just I'm the kind of person where it's like, with this kind of story, I kind of feel like it's a bit like too fantasy and mystery like, where it's like a lot of things are left unexplained, and you kind of have to either like do your own research into it, or you have to just like give it the benefit of the doubt and just assume that like, oh yeah, this is probably what happens. This just works, so it's like, and also like that part about like, so like Calcifer knowing who Sophie was on Letterson, but to be fair, he also let in the Witch of the Waste and also a dog, so like.
Witch of the Waste also is not a stranger, though.
I
And
guess,
a dog is a
but
dog.
But by time looping, they're not a stranger,
Well,
right?
no, the
No,
Witch of the Waste wasn't a.
Hal literally had a fling with the Witch of the Waste.
Yeah, they were fucking.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then, yeah, because
He mentions that the reason why she's sent the love letter with Sophie and cursed Sophie is because he pursued her because he thought that she was a beautiful person, but then she proved that she wasn't, so he ran away from her, and now he's just been running ever since.
I thought he was running from the war and other things too, which I guess he could be doing both at the same time.
Yeah, he mentions that his entire thing is he just runs from everything. So yeah,
right.
Hence the
all right.
moving castle.
Oh yeah.
And having
it all clicks.
Yeah, look at that! Wow, so
the
clever.
true moving castle was the friends we made along the way, or something. Anyways,
thanks, Johnny.
Yeah,
it is
more or
kinda,
less,
isn't it? That's kind of what the story ends up at, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
family,
my
yeah, for
built the
sure.
house though.
okay, so my I guess my did the romance. All right, I'll just come back straight out and say, did the romance between Howl and Sophie like not really feel like romance to you? Like when they kissed at the end and it was like, oh, their true love. Like I was kind of just like, I mean, I guess because they're the two main characters in the movie, but like, did they? That didn't. Again, maybe because it's the G rating, but I don't know.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I thought it was incredible.
I thought,
The time warps that they had and stuff, like going back and forth, like looking for each other. I loved it. I thought it was incredible romance.
I didn't get that at all. I also, I don't know, maybe I wasn't aware enough, but I didn't. The time travel to me was like, oh, there's time travel. Cool. Like, did that really happen in the movie that often? I didn't. It didn't feel like it was like a main
It
part of
happened
the
once.
movie. When he says, "Oh, I'll come find you" or whatever.
When she says that.
When she says that, yeah, or "Come find me."
Yeah.
Right. So it comes up at the end of the movie, 90% of the way through the movie.
Yeah.
And at the literal start of the movie, whatever he says, "I've been looking for you."
Well, that's
everyone knows that that's time travel.
I understand.
I know it's like foreshadowing or whatever.
That's foreshadowing.
It's a payoff.
Yeah, it's great.
Wait, what about when he gets stuck as a bird and then goes and hides and then later is not a bird? Isn't that him?
No, that was her dreaming.
That was her dreaming?
Yeah.
What? No, because she gets bombed in the dream.
What?
Yeah, she gets bombed in the dream, but like also you have to look at the. So yeah, so like when she's awake, she's in her her hair's fully black. Her hair is never fully black after she has the curse, unless she's asleep. So that was to signify
her hair is black when she's talking to the queen.
So she regains her youthfulness when speaking the truth. or speaking
Yeah,
for
it's
what
like
she wants?
it's like once it's like she gets the curse lifts when she's like definitive
It's
about something and
both.
working towards a goal, and then also when she's asleep. But I assumed it
You
was
are both
because
right.
when she's sleeping, she can like work like her dreams or what she wants, so she's like naturally doing that.
Yeah.
Right.
I think you're both correct.
Yeah, they are.
But to pull it back, I don't know. Again, to me,
Oh, it's the romance part, yeah.
the beyond the romance too. Like I don't think just saying that line at the beginning implies that there's like time travel comes up a singular time in the movie in terms of its relevance to the plot, whether it's happening or not. So when it happened, so to speak, I was just like, oh, this can happen because it can. And I guess that's the fantasy element, that's the magic, it's the whatever. But I just wish that it wasn't. That to me felt kind of just like I guess I'm a notorious time travel hater too. But
True.
You
I-
are.
Facts.
I guess, yeah, I know, but this felt very
Except for the
random.
single worst instance of it I have ever seen in fiction.
Yeah, that's
Facts.
true.
So true.
In what?
In
Funny Girl.
Funny
because
Girls
I,
and Mine.
Oh,
Yeah.
because I still enjoy the movie. It's something I love that part of
yeah.
it.
Don't
Yeah.
worry.
Anyways,
No, it's okay. I agree with you that like I didn't feel it was too well explained in this because it's like again it happens a single time. There's also like 20 other things in this movie that aren't explained. You know, it's like
right.
why are they fighting in this war? Oh, it's a pointless war. But it's like okay, like it has to be at least a reason, right? Like maybe like they just like I don't know, like had a
Want
bad
the
soccer game or
land?
something. Like I don't know, like any reason besides just oh we're gonna go to war with them because this is a movie and it's.
But the more important part of my complaint was the romance. I didn't feel like they connected at all. They anytime they talked to each other, it was never for more than 2 or 3 sentences without Howl, walking away or going to do something else or anything. Like I didn't feel like their connection, I guess, to the point that I was expecting to when they
To
suddenly kissed as true lovers.
to answer Johnny's question, by the way, the war is probably because the prince is missing, and they assume that he was kidnapped. That's why they dropped the. That's
yeah,
why they
that's a good-
dropped the leaf. That's why they
I
dropped the
guess it
leaflets
could
of
be a
him
reason.
during the first bombing.
In fact, I will tell you that is, at the very least, the official explanation of it, as I am reading, that where they end up in time, the war hasn't started yet. The prince wakes up and then goes to prevent the war from happening.
So he goes to prevent the war.
In the book,
supposedly
in
gets
the book,
killed
they
by
just do
enemy,
the
and then
war
they go to
anyway.
war. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
and then
but
they-
then
what
I
a
guess
dark
it's not
ending.
But then I guess it's not pointless because then it's like the enemy thinks that you just killed like their leader.
I think the point would be, he wasn't kidnapped. He got cursed by someone completely different, and like I
Yeah.
think that it would be pointing to the.
But that's even more wholesome. That's even more probably like what? How did he get cursed? We didn't really find
Bro,
out.
because he was in the waste, and they say there's nothing but witches and wizards out there. He probably just got like drive-by curse.
Why was he in the waste?
We literally. Who knows, man?
Why
We
was he
literally.
just
We
chilling there?
literally
What do you
see
want a diplomatic mission?
the main character just get like cursed for having a hat shop.
Yeah,
Well, that's
at the
because
start.
she was with Howl like that like
Yeah,
there like it made sense.
the witch sees her.
He just like got lost and then just turned into a puppet like. Or,
He's also a prince, so like
Yeah.
he's a prince and they have royal wizards, so it kind of goes to assume
it's a
that
target.
perhaps there's another royal wizard for other countries that would be interested in cursing the quote brilliant general and prince of the neighboring nation.
Yeah, it
who was
must have been.
traveling alone and got lost and
I think-
turned into a scarecrow.
I don't
Look,
mean this.
cease the war.
I'm trying to put this in a nice way, but it feels like you want them to just like tell you literally everything and just like flash it on
Like,
screen in bold
I am probably
text.
taking this too far, but it's like my overall point is like I feel like things aren't explained as well as they should be, which maybe isn't like something that they should have done.
It
Maybe
would
it's
just
just a
bog it
personal thing.
down.
It would bog it
Like,
down.
yeah, like maybe it is just a personal
In this
thing. For me-
specific example, maybe, but like in general, I think was more Johnny's point, and I think I agree with it personally that there should be that there were just so many things that would just happen, and again, it's like oh well, the explanation most of the time, like it is in a lot of shows too, is it's fantasy or it happened because it happened, but it's still I don't know, I find that kind of stuff frustrating.
I mean, I don't. Okay, God, I'm gonna flip on this. Maybe I'm gonna defend this movie.
Let's go.
You know, you know that the prince is missing. That's a plot point, right? You know that you have this turnip guy, right? And then you know that people get cursed in this world for whatever reason. Like the point
yeah.
is that he is missing. We don't need 20 minutes explaining that this prince, cheated a wizard out of money and then the wizard cursed him, or that he was like a playboy and then some witch was like, once you fall in love you'll be able to not be a turnip anymore, like it's not necessary. It'd be wasted screen time. Like it's a thing that we know can happen in this world. It happened. And so like, is it a little bit abrupt? I'm going to agree with you. I think it's maybe a little bit abrupt. I don't think it's like horrible though. Like it's like, because you know that there's a missing prince. He has to be somewhere. And by the end of the movie, you basically have Turnip Guy left. That's, the last place he can be. And because we've already seen people getting cursed for whatever fucking reason, like, to me, it's not crazy that would happen. I also want to amend something. I think some Reddit person got the timeline wrong. I think they do stop the war from happening, and it's still ongoing. I'm not really sure. But the point being, like, like everything can't have a backstory, or you'll never end the movie.
Also, if it wasn't Turnip Head, then you guys would probably be saying, well, then why did they even include Turnip Head if he's just a scarecrow?
Yep.
Because it's a
It's
G-rated
a fantasy
movie.
G-rated movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I
They
don't know.
had
It's,
a dog,
everything.
like, that could,
but you're
they had a
using your.
dog, like they just knew everything. Like,
We
Yeah,
gotta
that was-
explain
no.
what the dog was. He's a familiar. It's based on European folklore. Witches have
when
familiars.
did they say
in
that?
What she
She
says?
literally says, "This is Heen, my attendant dog.
Yeah.
I sent him to guide you."
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Bro is playing Subway
I
Surfers
watched the
during this
sub.
movie.
I watched the sub. When they didn't say
you
that, they
watched the
just said, "This
Subway
is my
Surfer.
companion."
Yeah, they did. They 100% did.
What
Solomon
did they say in
did.
the sub?
Solomon
That's
said that.
Solomon's dog, yeah.
They said dog. I didn't expect it to be. Oh, this dog is actually a level 400 wizard from like.
Well, she
don't
explains
know.
that the dog is like, she can see through the eyes of the dog or whatever.
And we see that in the movie.
That, like, I assume she just like put a spell on the dog.
She has a crystal ball. You see this in the movie.
Okay, sure. She put a spell on the dog. I mean, that's why the dog is there.
Yeah, she's a witch.
It's a fantasy. Magical things happen. Yes.
Yeah, weird. Magic things happen in a magic movie.
But why is there magic?
Yeah,
What
okay,
happened in
that's
the
what we
creation?
That's
Yeah,
what we need. We need a
it's the
backstory of
creation of magic.
what
Yeah,
happened
like,
at ground zero for magic. How did magic exist in this
We
world?
need a creation myth a 20-minute long creation myth like Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
At the
Yes,
beginning of the
I want
movie.
every fucking movie we watch from now on to have the Silmarillion, or it's fucking bad.
Correct.
Every
We
movie
just
starts
need
with a
that one,
Star Wars text scroll of like every single event that happened in this world's history.
We need an hour-long episode of just like the To Your Eternity origin story.
Oh, 1 second. Someone wants to talk in an organized manner as we yell at each other. Rifle, what do you have to say?
Yeah, I just to like veer the discussion towards the selling point of the film, which is the animation. I wanted to get y'all's thoughts, like, what were some of the key scenes that really struck you out? Like, for me, I thought the beginning moments where Howl and Sophie were walking through the air looked rather impressive.
I have two in my mind. One I mentioned in the beginning when Sophie's walking over the hill for the first time in the beginning and we see the castle for the first time. I thought that was absolutely incredible. And then I think the second time was when Sophie was discussing with Solomon about Howl, and her face changes from old to young back to old in like one frame. And I just thought how that was like transitioned was so smooth and clean. I was like, damn, that was really good. Those are the two that stuck out to me.
For me personally, when the moving castle comes in first, like when everything is moving and you see all these different moving parts that are all moving almost like independently of each other, and there's no choppiness or anything like that. That was extremely like satisfying, and I know it had to be technically brilliant to actually have that. Even if it's CGI, it looks amazing.
Yeah, for me, I think the ones that really stand out are basically like the whole stretch from when they get invited to the castle is a visual treat, in my opinion. Like even just seeing like something like the Witch of the Waste like struggling to get up the
This is so
stairs. I
good.
thought that
So
was like just
good.
really well animated how they like drew her like becoming more like amorphous and such. As well as like the dancing little creatures that stole her power that came out of the light bulbs. I liked that design a lot. The all the stuff with the like whirlybird ornithopter thing they had was awesome. And then like when Solomon like taps her cane and the ocean comes out of it, that reminded me a lot of Pokemon the movie Entei. Whenever she summons her water Pokemon, I thought that that was a very similar thing, which so that gave me a rush of childhood dopamine. So I really, basically, the whole movie is just a visual treat. A big part of why I think you can watch it with anybody.
Yeah, I think to like piggyback off of what Pete was saying, my favorite, like, it was all very beautiful, but what was interesting to me was how dynamic Sophie's age was s- within a scene where it felt like you had like a video game slider and you were like deciding how old your Baldur's
Yeah.
Gate character was, and then you were just sort of like moving it back and forth during various scenes. Like there wasn't just old and young, there were like stages within that, and I thought that was real like amazing attention to detail.
I guess I'll go. So for me, I think because it was my first time, I don't have like a particular scene I can remember, but it was mostly just like all around us very well. One thing that I want to mention, I think that was better was the backgrounds. I feel like the background shots in this film were like really good. One slight annoyance is that there are a couple shots when the background merges with like the foreground in a way that like looks a bit unnatural. So there's this one scene where she's like in like the flying plane thing, and then she hits a column. But the thing is, it's like you kind of see this with modern shows as well. Is that like the foreground and the background are like animated separately, but they still affect each other. So like once Sophie hit the column, it broke off, but in a way it was two different art styles. And it's like it's probably not something that like the regular person like would like notice or pay attention to, but for me it's like as someone that's like had to like deal with that kind of thing, it is kind of off-putting. And it's like it's a very small nitpick, and it's like it's probably not like a big complaint, but that is just something that I noticed.
Maybe a limitation of the technology at the time or whatever. It's the same thing with like oh, this complaint makes me think of like old like late 90s SpongeBob episodes where it's like he's walking along the street and then you notice that like one of the coral is slightly a different color than the rest of the background coral, and it's like okay, so that coral's getting moved, and then sure enough he grabs it or something like that. I think that that might be like a very and it's
Yeah.
just the nature, and you don't see that as often in modern animations.
It's still a
uh
little bit, but yeah. They've gotten a lot better at blending the foreground and the background.
so would you
But
say it's not as often as in modern animations?
I was agreeing with your point, Pat. But if you
I'm
want to
just
make it if you want to make it an argument, you want to argue, let's argue.
No, I just thought it was funny that you interrupted me to agree with my point. That's all. I'm just giving you a shit, Johnny. Yeah, I don't know. I guess for me, the art to me throughout the movie felt very consistent. Uh, I never really noticed anything I didn't like. I maybe a hot take here. I didn't love the castle itself. I was indifferent about it. Like I wasn't like entranced by it or thought it was that cool. No, I didn't care about it at all. It was like, oh, this ugly ass. I mean,
Bro,
I don't
Howl's
like those
bedroom was a
movies.
slapper. Tell me you
The
wouldn't take
inside the
a
house.
tell me you wouldn't take a fat nap in Howl's
No,
bedroom.
no. That's not what I'm saying. Sorry, I should specify. Inside the house was really cool, and like the set designs, especially as she was cleaning and other things like that, were really, really awesome. The outside of the house, and watching it walk. I don't know. Maybe it's I'm showing how little I care about Mecca, or how little I, what was that? What's that movie where
Whoa,
they
gonna
swallow the
offend our
cities?
Muslim viewers.
Yeah, Inshallah, brother. Right? Yeah. Sorry. The no, but the what's that movie where where the cities eat each other? What's that?
Oh, I know what you're talking
Yeah, you know what
about.
I'm talking
But
about. Yeah, like
yeah, that
I hated
Hunger
that.
Games ass movie.
I didn't care at all about that movie when it was announced or came out. I
Is
was
that
like,
the
I'm
Mortal
so different.
Engines? Is that what it's called?
Something like that.
Okay.
Exactly. But I guess that's my point. It's like I didn't care. So maybe just because it made me think of that, and I was just like, I don't give a shit about this at all. Like I don't care about this moving castle. I wanted it to be like a castle in the sky. Haha. Very funny.
Well, you
Have I
watched the
got
wrong
have I
movie.
got a movie for you?
Oh, really? Is there a movie they called that? Yeah, or something. Yeah. But I actually did. I was kind of like off put by the design of the castle on the outside. I just thought it looked ugly, and I don't like ugly things. So.
Okay, well, should I leave then?
Goodbye, Johnny.
Take it easy.
You said it, not
Don't
me.
let the
But
door
all right.
hit you.
Yeah. Yeah. The book's moving castle looks cooler to me because Miles just put that in the chat, and I think you could probably just Google that and find it very easily for our audio listeners. But
It's
yeah,
less interesting. It's that one's more of like a boring castle. I feel like the one in House Moving Castle is like it's unique. You know, it's like it may look like a literal walking pile of garbage, but at least it looks unique and not just like
yeah.
a random like brick building.
I guess
So I
I'd
feel like
rather
that's better.
see a well-constructed castle than a random pile of junk with feet with turkey legs walking around. But
Well, Howl's
hey,
a wizard, not an architect.
Baba
so you
Yaga
can't
is
blame him.
now an enemy of you.
yeah, she is. I hate that character. She's so frustrated playing against it in Smite. Yeah, I'm a jungler for a reason. Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's that's my perspective on the animation. Overall, I thought it was beautiful though. Like the movie itself was great, and it's not like the animation ever like was bad. I didn't like the design. The castle didn't like affect me like the way I maybe thought it would. But yeah, I guess we're pretty much at time here. So why don't we talk about our closing thoughts, final thoughts, whatever, final scores, yada yada. We've done this a couple times. We're professionals. Miles, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, this movie is nice. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a great watch all the way through. I think the characters are fun. I think it's very pretty. I think there's some stuff to take away with it, even if I think some of the themes, and I don't think I got to talk to this, but I won't elaborate because we don't have a ton of time, are a little simplistic, even for the G-rated movie. Pete, I think that you can absolutely delve a little deeper on in G-rated movies. I don't think that that's necessarily like the worst thing in the world or anything. I liked it. I gave it an 8 out of 10. It's very, very solid, good movie.
8 out of 10. All right, Kat, what about you?
I really, really enjoyed this movie. It was very, very fun. I actually watched it with Burley. If that's the first time watching, Burley's my wife. But like this movie was a great treat for me. Of course, there was the ending. That was pretty much the only part. The only part that I really had gripe with was when the prince was there. When the prince just kind of appeared. But other than that, this movie was great. My main closing thought personally is that uh this I could see where Made in Abyss got it got its inspiration for its art style from. But also Made in Abyss kind of did it better. And that's why I'm giving Howl's Moving Castle a 9.
3.
3, yes. All right, I got it. I'll write it down as a 3. Perfect.
Hell, I gave it
Thank
a
you for
9, bro.
yeah, yeah. A 3. There you go. All right, Johnny, what about you?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how Made in Abyss did it better after 15 years. But anyways,
Yeah.
I think going into this as my first Miyazaki film, I have to think about it's the expectations that are placed upon it, I think, and it's like I think like that's obviously gonna affect how you view. So like, did this movie meet my expectations? Yes, but also my expectations were basically animate like Japanese Disney. And that's kind of what I got. You got a simple story that anyone can watch that you can just sit down and like enjoy. But it doesn't really go that deep beyond it. I mean, it's like I think that there's more that could be done, but it's not like it needed to be done. So I feel like for what it is, it's definitely worth the watch, and I think I'm gonna be giving it an 8.
An 8. Alrighty. Jay, what about you?
Oh, yeah, I really enjoy this movie. I think that, like I said, it's something you can watch with anybody. It is a pretty timeless Ghibli classic, in my opinion. And honestly, my personal favorite Ghibli movie. I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10.
A 9. Nice. All right. Pete, what about you?
Love this film so much. I love how the themes that they made very simple for anybody to consume. I thought the answers I wanted were mostly there. Minus, I'm with Kat. The ending with like getting the Calcifer back from the witch to me was kind of like the one thing that I didn't really enjoy. Other than that, this movie was fantastic. It's my second favorite Ghibli film. We didn't talk about the music, but the music was great. The art was incredible. The voice acting was really good outside of Billy Crystal. But that's just like
So good, by the way.
that's
Billy
it.
Crystal's voice acting is amazing.
Watch the sub. If you watch the sub, it's at first, and then you watch this, it's like, I don't know, it's like Chewbacca is playing Calcifer for me. It's just so different compared to what the sub is. I just greatly prefer the sub. Billy Crystal's great, by the way. I love him. I'm giving this a 9.
9. All right. And Rifle, what about you?
Yeah, this movie itself, animation and art style was just very spectacular. I think for the first half of the film, I enjoyed the story and characters. The latter half, I had a little bit of issues, but I'm thankful that Jay was able to explain some of them. So thank you, buddy. It doesn't really move my score too much, but I'm giving the movie an 8 out of 10.
An 8 out of 10. Pretty. I'll echo the points of the music. I loved it. It made me very nostalgic, mainly because it sounded like Super Mario Galaxy to me, like one of the songs that play. The song that plays in Rosalina's hub. It sounds very similar to Howl's Moving Castle's main theme. I think. Maybe I'm crazy for thinking like aligning those, but I thought they sounded very similar. But overall, the music was just great throughout. I really did enjoy the movie. I don't know. As usual, I'm just frustrated by things that felt unexplained or things that felt just weird to me. That rubbed me the wrong way. I was somewhere between a 7 and an 8. I think a 7.5 would have been perfect for me. But we don't give those scores on Mal or on Watch Club. So I had a number generator pick a number between 7 and 8, and it picked 8. So I am going with an 8 out of 10 as well for Howl Moving Castle, which brings us to, I believe we had 4 8s and 3 9s. So that's a 59 divided by 7. That brings us out to an 8.428. So we'll go with an 8.43 overall for us on our opinion on Howl's Moving Castle. Again, Mal has it at an 8.66. So pretty similar in scoring, which I guess makes sense with our larger cast today. But yeah, that wraps up our discussion on Howl's Moving Castle. Miles, what are we watching for Cat Week?
So, for Cat Week, in third place, we had, when I bring up my thing, please hold. We had My Roommate is a Cat, which is a very cat-like thing. Now, we had a tie for first place between Non-Baka and Space Dandy, but then I went through the archives, which is my list, and at some point, someone nominated Space Dandy, and it got a legacy point.
I think that was also me.
So we will be watching Space Dandy.
Common JW.
So, Kat, I hope that you like Space Dandy. I know you were desperate to watch Non-Baka too, but maybe later.
There is no maybe later. And
Next
you know
year,
it.
next year's Cat Week.
No, there's.
Nominated for Miles Week, actually.
Nominated for Miles Week. It's the only thing that makes sense.
But yeah, perfect. All right, so we're watching Space Dandy for our September 4th meeting, which I believe is Labor Day. So maybe there'll be a connection there. Who knows? Probably not. You never know.
I just want to say this was a really close week for Cat Week. Our lowest scored thing was Trigun at 9, and our highest was a tie at 12.
Damn.
So this was it was like 12, 12, 11, 10, 9. Very.
Was there anything tie for third?
No.
Okay, so it was just like, well, technically it's second, right? Because it's a tie, but yeah.
Sure. Call of the Night came in. You want a legacy point for that, Johnny?
That's how it
So I
works.
don't care.
It honestly is how
sure.
it works sometimes. I am not consistent at all with it. I go completely by feel.
Yeah. Just based on how you feel, I don't care either way.
I don't want to see how the sausage is made.
It has gotten better over time, is what I will tell you.
Progress.
We're a little
Progress.
better
That's what
about
we're
it.
here for. Character development.
There's more data, so it's easier to make the correct decision based on the data, right? Something like that. But yeah, all right. Now, we did the wheel last week. So nominations for this episode or this upcoming or for voting for this next session is for Pat Week. So my week. Thanks, Pat. Big plug. So yeah, why don't we all, except for me, nominate shows for Pat Week? Miles, what have you got for Pat Week?
I was torn between a few things. There's a few things that I know you like. One, you like some romances, but like I feel like there are tiers above this that you like, right? So like what you really like are things that are quick to watch. You're always very pro movie
Yeah.
and stuff. And so I was thinking, what about the I can't understand what my husband is saying? There's been interest in that. You have obviously been interested in that. But then I thought about it more, and what I think you truly crave, that maybe we all crave, is validation for your opinions. And so I've decided to go with something to settle a score between you and Pete. And I am going to nominate White Album 2.
Oh my
Let's go.
god.
Oh God!
Finally,
See, okay, I'm safe. I'm safe.
Oh
And
my
you know what the
god.
best part is? This makes sense because Miles loves visual novels too. So this is and it's a visual novel source. So
I
there's the
like
connection there
good
too.
visual novels, though.
This one's like one of the most highly rated ones.
I also like
It
bad.
also has nothing
There's
to
like
do with White Album.
7.
Yeah, it's one of the 7 that
Yeah,
people care
it's
about.
it's not
you
hard to
know?
be better than Fruits of Grisai and Love.
For every one you know about, there's 100 even worse ones. So
Above Love Alternative is the highest rated visual novel of all
Yep,
time.
but not the anime.
No.
Thank you, I appreciate that gift. That's fun. But Kat, what about you? What have you got for Pat Week?
So, I also had a few things to choose from, and I was hoping that nobody would take any of mine, so I just prepared 3 just in case. Yes, I know there's only one person who goes in front of me, but still. So at the number 1 spot, I've got a show that you really, really like. Wandering Witch Elena.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah, I love that show. I think that show's underappreciated. So I would love to talk about it and rewatch it. I think there's a dub for it too, isn't there? I think they made a dub for it.
That's another thing.
You can tell that he's getting excited when he starts over-explaining things.
Well, no, I'm excited because it's like, oh, I might be able to watch it like authentically for the first time rather than like watch the sub again, you know? So that would be fun. But yeah, I loved that show. That show was great. So thank you, Kat. Appreciate it. What were the other 2? We'll ask that later. Johnny, what have you got?
Yeah, so for me as well, I know there's a lot of shows that we've wanted you to watch, but as the Smite player you are, you would rather spend 8 hours in ranked than watch an anime on ×2 speed for 2 hours. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make you watch anime that you refuse to watch because the last few times that we did it, you actually enjoyed it. So
You're
you know, maybe this
nominating the
time.
last 8 episodes of season 1 of Code Geass? That's crazy.
Yeah,
what,
that's-
what is what?
End of
What is
I haven't
Evangelion.
watched that either.
It's
What
like
is-
the last 4 episodes.
Yeah.
By the way. It's
Yeah.
only like
Actually,
I'm on episode 20.
I could have probably nominated anything again, but that's not what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna nominate something that, like, you have gone on record to say that you hate for some reason, even though this thing is in shows that you like for no explainable reason, because it's a show you like. So I'm gonna nominate Mob Psycho 100 because it's about time that you watch
Hey,
that.
that's my boy.
Hey.
That's my boy.
That's
Yeah.
a spicy Pat challenge because that's like I dare you to not like this. And if there's anything I know about Pat, it's that he'll win
find a
that.
way.
He'll
doesn't
find a
like
way to hate
time
it.
travel. He doesn't like
He'll find
time
a way to
travel
hate
except when it's in a
most
show he
things.
likes. He doesn't like psychics except when it's an elfin lead, a show he likes.
I will say
So,
I will say the Bunny Girl time travel is missed by a lot of people because I think it's very poorly explained. And that kind of makes it not time travel. So I do understand why. I just like being a hater.
I mean, every show has time
Ooh.
travel. It's just going forward.
Good
No,
point.
great call out there, Johnny. No, I guess my point with Bunny Girl is I didn't notice it, so I didn't care until then you pointed it out to me, and then I cared and I disliked it, but I still like the show a lot. So why would I just hate the show now? I just hate you now.
Now it's personal.
No, and again, I've made my point with Elfen Lied many times. You can see the psychic shit. I hate psychic shit that you can't see, and you can see it in Elfen Lied. But I don't know. Again, we can talk about that if Mob Psycho wins. But you know what? I may be a hater, but if there's one other hater out there, at least I know Emily has me, because she didn't like Mob Psycho season 1 either. So there we go. She'll have my back.
We all have bad takes.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Few of us have
We're
more.
all maybe. Jay, what have you got for Pat Week?
Yeah, so I'm going with something that is a movie, something that I think you might enjoy because it's well animated, shows the horrors of war. The guy who did basically the directing, character design is Hiroyuki Okura, who did key animation for Your Name, as well as Paprika, Akira, the first OP of the original Rurouni Kenshin, Evangelion 3.0, a lot, the second Naruto movie, basically a lot of stuff. I'm nominating Jinro Wolf Brigade.
Ooh.
I've never heard of that. That sounds interesting though, with all those people attached. It sounds like a vintage thing. Is it from like the 90s or?
From the year 2000 by Production IG.
That's another
Ooh.
Pat thing. Just picking something that looks kind of neat from 1998 to 2002.
Has to be
It's
at least
stu-
older than. It has to be at least older than me.
Yeah, it's something old and random, and just why not? You know, something that you wouldn't find on a normal streaming service either, because the rights are all split apart into 5 different studios. You know, but yeah, perfect. All right, Pete, what about you?
Now, we've touched on a little bit that Pat has a witch fetish, but there's also another thing that Pat also loves, and that's being dominated. So I'm going to pick a dominating witch show. I'm going to nominate Witchcraft Works.
Witchcraft Works.
I thought you just described the hentai there, honestly.
I mean, you should see Pat's search history.
No, I don't.
It's empty, so
Oh,
Well,
incognito
there-
mode, smart Pat.
There are a lot of witches in this show.
Yeah. Yeah, there are. They
can't-
craft works together too.
And it doesn't have the etchy tag, which I'm a little surprised of looking at the splash art, but that's okay.
that makes it more of a Pat show, honestly. That it doesn't have like the etchy tag. I think so.
No,
that's,
I was just expecting it to, just because of
Right.
the man to woman ratio on this the splash art is. I mean, I guess it's about witches. It makes sense. Okay.
There we go. There it comes all full circle here. All right, and Rifle, the reason you watched Howl's Moving Castle was to give me this show, or potentially give me this show. What is it?
Yeah, I had trouble because I don't know you too well, sadly. So I was thinking to myself, there's 2 movies I could probably do. And I was like, one of them is definitely a Pat movie, while the other one you'd still like, but everyone would also probably like. But I'm like, nah, this is a Pat week. So I'm going to lean in towards your samurai side and nominate Sword of the Stranger.
Ah, nice.
Ooh, okay. I've never heard of that one. At least I don't think I have. So let's see it. Sorry, Johnny just shared a screenshot. One of the characters in Pete's show is named Obama. That's pretty funny. But all right, Sword of the Samurai. That sounds like fun.
No,
too.
Sword
Oh,
of the
man.
Stranger.
Sword of the Stranger. Sorry, but it's a samurai movie, right? Sorry. Thank you. All right. Well, I'm excited to see what we end up voting on that week. Do we want to spin the wheel real quick for Miles and Jay and see what we're doing for next week's nominations?
I believe Jay and I have decided to do a cage match to the death in order to determine who gets to go next.
Okay, cool. I'll spin the wheel to be just to be safe in case you
Okay.
guys
I'm
both
also
kill
I'm
each
also
other.
going to get Miles like life if I win. Like,
Yeah.
'cause yeah,
You get to step in.
I
and
will
stuff,
use
yeah.
Cooper as my own.
Are you
Okay.
gonna steal? Are you gonna steal his heart and make your own moving castle?
Yeah,
know
there
what?
you go.
I have a heart condition. Steal something else.
Also, it's gonna be like it's just gonna be like a moving house, not a moving castle, because it's tough on you.
Don't tell me what to do. I'll steal your heart if I want to.
Well, you have, but more metaphorically.
You guys are so sweet. But yeah, so it is Jay week, 2 weeks from now. So come ready with nominations for Jay, and then it'll be
Let's
Miles week
go.
after that to wrap it all up. So
Oh, did we spin the wheel?
I did just spin the wheel.
Oh, I totally missed it. Okay.
I didn't stream
We
it.
we
because
all
I-
did.
I get- No, yeah, we all did. I just did it while you guys were talking to
Okay.
keep us moving here because we are approaching time, I would imagine. But yeah, so let's yeah, let's wrap up our watch club there. Thank you guys for listening, and Pete, why don't you close out the show?
Yeah, if you have made this far and you want to support us, the best way to do so, like, comment, subscribe, leave a review on whatever platform you are watching and or listening to us on. Next week, no idea. I'll put something out on Monday. I'll figure it out then. But thank you so much. And otherwise, if you're here for Watch Club, we'll see you in 2 weeks for Space Dandy. Thanks. Peace.